This movie almost has a goofy reputation in modern media. It's almost kind of like a feel-good, spooky movie. And it's a lot more serious than people give it credit for.
Hi, I'm Teresa. Welcome to our weekend show of Cocoon Cast, where we deep dive into movies and discuss all things cinema.
Hi, I'm Rebecca. Today we'll be discussing on our Retro Rewind the movie The Nightmare Before Christmas.
And we also have some striking Hollywood news.
Looks like there may be more than one Highlander universe.
Oh my, let's get started.
Jack Skellington, the most influential and ghastly figure in Halloween Town, in his own words, is getting bored of the same old thing. That is, organizing all the thrills and chills of Halloween for everyone. But when he takes a tumble into Christmas Town on a walk with his dog Zero, he soon realizes there's more to life than spooks and scares. The question is, will everyone else see Jack's vision without destroying the magic of his newly imagined perspective?
Rebecca, you're saying you think this movie is a lot more serious than people give it credit for.
This movie almost has a goofy reputation in modern media. It's that quirky movie that everybody turns on between Halloween and Christmas because it's almost kind of like a feel-good, spooky movie. And it's a lot more serious than people give it credit for. There's relation dynamics that don't necessarily revolve around romance. Heck, even the main character is basically having a midlife crisis over his purpose in life.
Oh, come on. That's not serious at all. Well, and the movie is old, right? We saw it on re-release, 30th anniversary, predates you by just a tiny bit, actually.
Just a smidge.
Just a smidge. I remember seeing it with the box in the movie theater originally, and then seen it since then a few times. And you've seen it, I remember we were talking about Beetlejuice a few weeks ago on Cocoon Cast. You've seen that about 20 plus times. This one you've seen
about 10 plus times.
Oh, wow. Okay. So
I purposely space out this movie so I don't get bored of it because it is so ingratiated in the circles that I run with.
Wow. Well, and I love this movie. I love Danny Elfman music. I'm sure our Cocoon Cast community says, oh man, there she goes again. It's Danny Elfman music again. I love it. I laughed because I was sitting between you and the box on this one, and it was funny. They said, oh, we're going to sound the alarm, and both of you just went on me because the cat where he, winds the tail.
Do the sound.
I laugh. I love that character so much on my Discord. That's my little icon is the cat.
Well, and it's so goofy because I associate you with that Mirror character because you just love just how he immediately flips on his emotions, how he expresses them, and of course his goofy cat alarm on his car.
That's the least of it. But I think the movie has aged well. I enjoy seeing it. I could not say I've seen it about 10 times. I would say maybe about 5 times, maybe a few more. It's hard to know how many times I've seen it, but I remember it so clearly.
Well, and I remember watching Tim's movies with you growing up. It wasn't like I'm the only person in this house that likes Tim Burton. It's a family thing. I remember seeing trailers for Tim's movies and saying, I want to see that. And the family's like, yes, let's all go see that together enthusiastically.
That is true. Well, and obviously we love movies. However, I do understand not every family is a Tim Burton family. This is a dark movie, but to me, it's a happy story. It has a happy ending, which is funny because, Santa Claus is abducted. Jack Skellington is having the midlife crisis of, he wants to be helpful.
There's even a parental relationship that is quite dysfunctional and discusses emotional abuse and replacement of family members and how that emotional journey carries out.
Well, and the part with Sally, I laugh because I recall reading something where they were saying, the Dr. Frankenstein is her father for all intents and purposes. And they said, so he has some misguided affection and he's overly protective. And I thought, I don't recall having an overly protective parent that would, lock me in a room and say, you're not leaving.
Yeah, if you have to drug your parent to leave the house.
That's the thought. I'm like, yeah, that was never really a thought. However, it just kind of cracked me up.
And he constantly devalues her too. There's several moments where he implies that she's not smart and that he finds company better with other people.
It's not friendly. And that's the part where I was like, well, this is a little bit more. There might be a little family therapy needing to happen with this,
I'll pay for the first session. Dang.
Oh, man. No, and it was interesting. It wasn't enough to be distracting to me.
No, it just felt like you wandered into this little slice of a spooky universe, and this is the people that are in this universe.
Well, and I think part of it for me was the characters. They're definitely memorable. And do you have, obviously, the cat alarm still makes me smile. But do you have a favorite character? Because I remember when you were younger, Sally was definitely your gal.
Sally still is my gal. I think I just find more to love about her as I've gotten older. That being said, I appreciate Jack a little bit more as I've gotten older.
I'm laughing. As you get closer to the midlife, it's like, oh, he's starting to feel a little bit more relevant.
Well, he feels very relatable because there's almost this image of him that's presented that he's chosen to present in a certain way. And there's all these societal expectations on him because of that image. And he's saying, is that really me? Is that who I want to be?
Well, and to me, that's a typical existential crisis. The part that hit me is, like you said, we've seen it in any movie that we review for Cocoon Cast. We watch it anew, even if we've seen it 20 times. We will watch it again and have discussion about it. And to me, what really stood out was how, even despite his existential crisis and our holiday existential crisis, he was a really good guy. He really wanted to make people happy. And his attempt at having Christmas was not, I'm having this existential crisis, I want to do my own thing, which sometimes can happen, but actually wanting to include his community.
That's a good point, too, because he saw his community as people who also needed this livening up. He saw his community as something that could provide this unique experience to the children of the world and saying, hey, Santa, we've got it from here. Take the night off. And Santa's like, oh no, but his intentions are so pure. And I think that makes Jack a true hero in this sense of the story, not just saving people from dramatic bug people.
Well, and the mayor, when he was gone, he was worried about his community was worried about him. It wasn't, oh, he does Halloween, here we go again. It's, where is he? We can't find him. And Sally was concerned. Just everyone was.
Even the arguably most chaotic evil characters, Lock, Shock, and Barrel, still had
and Oogie Boogie.
Oogie Boogie did not care about him.
Yeah, no, right. But the
kids,
was
happy he was gone. Yes, the kids, his little minions.
Yes,
even they had a measure of affection for Jack. There's probably only one character that I'd argue is basically pure evil.
However, you need that in a hero movie, right? You need to have an adversary or, an antagonist at this point.
If I could make the comparison, if anything, it feels like a fairy tale, some of the structure and stories.
It feels like, that's a great analogy because it is dark, as if the older fairy tales are a little dark.
Just a bit.
Yeah, and you're like, yeah, I've read all those too. I know, Parent of the Year award over here. However, I would say there was a happy ending, like I had said earlier. It didn't, although it was dark, it's identified as a dark fantasy film.
And there's a lot of music. It is quite a musical.
Well, and Danny Elfman sings for Jack, and boy, is he singing. It's like, da, 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 da. And even Sally, it was Catherine O'Hara, which we love. Beetlejuice, she was in Beetlejuice recently, and
every Christopher Guest movie, basically.
Yes.
Mighty Wind. Speaking of Catherine O'Hara's singing, I love her singing in Mighty Wind.
Wonderful. No, and it's funny because I know you grew up watching the Christopher Guest movies with us.
Yes.
And I'm just like, did you make the comparison that it was her from Beetlejuice and Nightmare Before Christmas and all the Christopher Guest movies? Or was that something that was jumped out recently?
The Christopher Guest movies, I made the link to Beetlejuice. I didn't make the link to Sally's singing voice until, I would say, probably 8 years ago.
Okay, so fairly recently, then in your 20s.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
The effects are also really cool, too. This is a stop motion film, but there's a lot of environmental effects, like the smoke and some of the other effects as well, like the weather as well.
I liked it. The effects were, we always laugh, are the effects special? The effects were very special and very creative. I know it was up for an Academy Award for the animation. And of course, lost to Jurassic Park.
Ah, Stan Winston strikes again.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, exactly. How do you win against that? However, it was definitely acknowledged as important and significant. And when I think about 30 years ago, it feels like this movie could be made today.
That's true. I see a lot of films like Paranorman, Coraline that it definitively influenced, and it still feels like it could be made timeless in that moment.
I would agree with that. And screenplay, what were your thoughts about that? Because we talked a little bit about the story. I think at this point, past the 30 years, most people, if they haven't seen it, they probably know enough about it.
I think it takes somebody who's skilled at translating Tim. Tim has his own little way of saying things.
Oh, very much.
And I think drawing that out into a story, especially from a 3-page long Christmas epic poem, takes a bit of work, and I think they did it well without it feeling cheesy.
Well, and to me, that's pretty amazing to think his sentiment was encapsulated, like you said, in a 3-page poem, which is hilarious. I can't imagine a 3-page of anything of mine turning into a full-length movie with singing and dancing and, Santa Claus getting abducted. That just, I don't know, just maybe it's me. But I appreciated the fact that it really set the foundation for other people's vision. Other people jumped on board because clearly it's not enough for Tim Burton to do this on his own.
And that's the thing I want people to understand is this film is a dark film. In fact, Disney released this through Touchstone Pictures because they're like, this is too dark for our mainstream Disney brand. Go figure. The guy who gets fired for showing his bloody mouth the whole time he has a root canal. But I think a lot of people kind of undervalue some of the contributions of the other creative team. So if you take the chance, go through all of the people that have worked on this movie. You'll be surprised how much overlap there is and how much talent is on this movie.
There's a ton of overlap. Carolyn Thomas wrote the screenplay. She's done one of your other favorites.
2 of my other favorites.
Oh, that's right. That's correct.
But my favorite stop-motion Tim Burton film would have to be Corpse Bride, and she wrote part of that.
Yeah. No, I was thinking of that. And I remember when you were younger, Edward Scissorhand, beautiful introduction to Danny Elfman music as well. I mean, that was one that I know we played often at our home.
I would also encourage our cinema community, check out the original soundtrack. Patrick Stewart does some narrating on there. There's also a nice little addendum with a cute little epilogue.
Oh, I'm laughing. Patrick Stewart, I wonderful Shakespearean actor. However, I laugh because I'm still thinking, make it so, number one.
Make it so, number one.
Like, make it so, Jack Skellington, right?
Make it so. 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 Make it so.
So I cracked up at that part. Do we have any questions from the box?
We've reviewed a lot of movies that are cult classics. Do you think this movie is a cult classic also?
I know this movie came out 30 years ago, but it's hit the point in the mainstream where I think it's no longer a cult classic. You may argue that it's a cult classic based on the type of material, the creative team involved, but I think this movie has been accepted by such a wide audience, I don't think it falls under that label anymore.
Meaning it's more mainstream versus kind of niche or just a small segment.
I wouldn't say it was still cult classic as of 15 years ago. But I think Disney has really exploded this movie into the minds of the mainstream cultural consciousness.
That's interesting. I don't know if I disagree on that because I honestly haven't thought a lot about it. I think the term cult classic gets thrown around a lot. And I think Tim Burton is known. I can't think of one of his movies that is not considered a cult classic, to be honest with you. We've reviewed several, right? Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I'm not sure if Edward Scissorhands is identified as such, but I don't know. I agree with you. It feels more mainstream, and even Beetlejuice to a certain degree. I mean, they're making it into a musical. I think Lego sets are. That feels mainstream. That doesn't feel cult classic.
Yeah,
that feels pretty universal to me.
I think the only one I would consider a cult classic anymore is maybe Dark Shadows.
Okay, that would make sense to me. Do we have any other questions from the box?
You spoke earlier about Disney originally putting this through Touchstone and now it's under the Disney brand. Do you think it's still too dark for kids, or do you think kids can access this material without it being too dark?
I think it's too dark for kids, but then again, I am a very dark and spooky kid at heart, so I'm a little biased. I think that this movie can be a little freaky. There are some moments, especially the Oogie Boogie sequence near the end, that would definitely scare the bejesus out of any kid with a bug phobia.
Well, and the movie is rated PG. However, I agree with you. And I know the reason or the rationale behind the PG is some scary images. However, I think there's some pretty intense themes.
That's what the other thing I was going to bring up, and I'm glad you did, especially with some of the relationship dynamics that we've talked about earlier. I'd say maybe mid-teens, this is a good starter film for that.
I
Unless
would
you're
agree.
making the decision saying, hey, my kid's mature enough to handle this.
Well, and I think that's it, is knowing what kids can handle. But I think young kids, it's not, oh, it's a happy Halloween film. No pun intended there on that one. But, or, you know, it's a happy Christmas film. It's dark and it could be potentially scary, especially with Danny Elfman's music. That adds a whole layer of intensity.
And Danny is very descriptive in his lyrics, too.
Yes, that's true.
It's not just, oh, we're going to kidnap the Santa Claus. It's like, kidnap the Santa Claus, send him down. You know, I mean, they go into detail.
They're telling you how to do it. You don't want to give your kids ideas on what to do with Santa Claus. Rebecca, it is that time of the show where we have 5 spooky moths. What do you think on a scale 1 to 5 moths? What would you rank Nightmare Before Christmas?
This is a 3 and a wing for me.
All right, number 1 reason for a 3 and a wing.
It's not a perfect Tim Burton movie. Some of the ideas haven't been fully fleshed out in the Tim that I know, but it's still a very enjoyable experience, and culturally, it explains a lot about modern culture for us.
And what is the perfect Tim Burton movie? Would you say there is a 5 moth Tim Burton movie you would say?
There's a 4.5 animated Tim Burton movie, and for me, that is Corpse Bride.
Okay, so 4 and a wing is, and that's the highest that you would give a Tim Burton film. Is that correct?
I would give a Tim Burton film in general in between the 4.5 and the 5.
Okay, would that include what, Edward Scissorhands?
That would include all of his work, not just the animated work. Right now, I'm specifically focusing on the animated work.
Okay, that's fair. I would say the perfect Tim Burton movie is
Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Absolutely. 5 moths, hands down. I don't even need to think about it. That's what it is. However, on The Nightmare Before Christmas, I would say it's 3 and a wing for me. It has a lot to like, and going back and seeing it again for, I don't know, 6th time or so, seeing it in the theater multiple times, I enjoy it. I still enjoy it. However, I think the darkness, the inaccessibility to a number of people, I would say keeps it from being a 4. To me, a 4 is a little bit more universal. It's not such a small niche market.
If you enjoyed our review on A Nightmare Before Christmas, please like, which helps more viewers find our cinema community, and subscribe so you don't miss our upcoming reviews, and please share with your friends.
Hey, Rebecca, it's that time of the show to talk about who we are not sponsored by.
Who are we not sponsored by?
We are not sponsored by Jack in the Box.
You mean Dad in the Box?
No, Jack in the Box. Hey, speaking of Jack in the Box, put your drink down. They are not sponsoring us this week, Rebecca.
Darn.
Yeah, okay.
These cremachinos, man.
No more cremachinos. They are not sponsoring us. We had to pay for those. But let's talk about Jack in the Box. All right, so they're not all evil, right? Although they kind of feel like they might be a little bit today.
I was going to say, I want my cremachino. Sponsor us already.
Yeah. So what do you know about Jack in the Box? We've determined it's not Dad in the Box. So what do you think?
Well, I definitely like their chicken fajita pitas too. So
they have a menu, and I have found this fascinating. Jack in the Box came around in 1951.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't realize they were that old.
They are that old. San Diego. They started in San Diego. They're actually still headquartered in nice Southern California, nice San Diego. Somehow I don't associate a big jackhead in San Diego. However, they are quite prolific. They have 2,300 restaurants. Do you know this?
2,300? Wow.
23. And I laugh because they're talking about, we're primarily on the West Coast. However, but they're not. They're in Nashville. They have several in Texas, Kansas City, Charlotte, North Carolina. 2 in Guam. There are 2 Jack in the Box. Guam is not very big, but there's 2 Jack in the Boxes. And I'm not sure if they have the drive-through. We'll have to, if our cinema community
Maybe they have the
knows.
drive up in the boat.
Well, yeah, right. So, yeah, if you're from Guam, please let us know. Do you know about
Comment
these Jack in the
below.
Boxes? Do you know if they have actually drive-thrus? 5,300 employees.
Wow.
And I don't know what they call them. I don't know if they call them like Jackites or,
I have another idea, but I shouldn't say it.
Yeah, right. I'm not sure what they call them, but I laugh because they have a subsidiary of Del Taco.
Seriously? That's weird.
Well, the box loves Del Taco, so I'm sure he's very happy to hear that, wait a minute, it's not just Jack in the Box. So we talked about, they came about in the 50s. So in 1947 in Anchorage, Alaska, not necessarily the place you would think of as, fast food, there was a restaurant called the Chatterbox.
That's an interesting name.
Yeah, well, it is funny because not like the Chatty Cathy. I, double check that one too. But they had a concept for the drive-through window. Which
In Alaska?
Yeah, well, think about it. It's cold, it's blizzarding, they're like, right, they have to do something.
Okay, that's fair.
All right. So they have this intercom system, and then Jack in the Box said, this is pretty cool. So they put this clown little head in this little small clown on the intercom, and you're saying, I'll take this. And it's hilarious because guess how they respond to that?
How do you respond to a clown head?
Well, so you're ordering, right?
Right.
And then it says, please pull forward. Jack will speak with you.
Wow, that's just ominous.
I know. And so you pull around the corner, and there's this big, giant clown head on this restaurant.
I thought it was just some marketing gimmick. I didn't realize there was an actual story behind it.
Oh no, there's a whole story. They've thought about all of these things, and okay, you probably remember Jack in the Box when you were a little bit old. Do you remember the little heads, the little antenna ball heads?
Yeah, you could spend $5 you get one or something, and they'd toss it in there for free if you ordered enough food.
No, I think you actually have to pay for it because I admit the little jacket. I was laughing. I was looking around for one because I'm sure we have a jackhead or two floating around still, which is probably kind of creepy if you're a kid, right? Little jackheads. But they had the little antenna balls. And I remember you had said something about the antenna balls.
Yeah, I remember you got one, and if I couldn't find your car just by the make and model of it, I just had to look for the little Jack in the Box head on the antenna.
No, and I remember this. This is back in the day when you were a kid. I drove a Jeep, and I drove a purple Jeep, which I know our cinema community is like, really? But really, truly,
I can confirm she's not
used
lying
to drive
about
a
this.
purple Jeep, and I laugh because it had a large roof rack. And I would pull into a place like Target or someplace with huge parking lot. And you would think, purple Jeep, you could find that so easily. You'd be surprised. And I remember buying the little jackheads, and when they would blow off on the freeway, I'd be like, oh no, I need more jackheads. So for a long time, I had little jackheads, and I would put it up there. And I remember we would come out of the stores, and based on the area we're at, it's pretty congested. And I would literally look for the head, or I remember I'd ask you to look for the head, and we'd see the head, and we'd wheel our cart toward this little jackhead. I laugh. I was hoping that maybe that would have saved you, however you remember this. But that was their thing. And they had holiday ones. You remember this? They would have little Christmas jackheads and things. But those were a little harder to find. The white one with the little pointy head was just perfect. Little antenna balls.
Well, and I remember some of the ads. It was Jack was kind of like a more accessible Ronald McDonald. He was just funnier.
Well, and their advertising, if you like marketing or advertising, they're genius. I remember they had Jack, he was in this suit. He was kind of this business character. And anytime he was happy, the little red smile. And if he was unhappy, he'd be like, But they made him into this real person. And I think you were old enough at that point to go, I don't think he's a real person. However, I think it would have been funny if you would have been younger and said, I don't know, is he a real person?
I'm surprised they never did a promo with Nightmare Before Christmas with the two Jacks.
Oh, well, Well, what are you thinking? Jack in the Box, Jack, they all kind of go together. You know, Jack's our guy. So our theme is Jack, Jack, Jack. However, Jack in the Box does not want to sponsor us, although they have some pretty wild food combinations. I know, all right, you have your little cream machino that's not been sponsored by Jack in the Box this afternoon. Yes. You know what else they have food-wise?
They have a lot of stuff.
They do. They have fajita pitas.
Yes.
They have egg rolls.
Yes.
Did you know they have egg rolls?
Yes, I know they have egg rolls. It's probably one of the most consistent things I order. They're pretty good.
Okay. And then the jalapeno poppers.
Oh, I love those things. Those are addicting.
Well, and I laugh because my dad's claim to fame, hello, not sponsored by... Their claim to fame was the sourdough Jack.
Ah, the infamous sourdough Jack.
Yes, my brothers and I laugh about my dad, love the sourdough Jack. In fact, we were actually thinking when my dad passed away, maybe put a little Jack head near his space just to honor my dad.
I'm going to have to text my uncles later to confirm this
I
one.
would say there is something about that. As much as we love him, much as we appreciate him, much as we've been talking about Jack this whole time, they still don't want to sponsor us.
They'll sponsor the 49ers, but not us.
That's what I'm saying. Thanks for not sponsoring us. No.
Gotta get it in while I can, man. I need my coffee.
If you have seen A Nightmare Before Christmas and want to share a review with a friend but don't want to share the whole show, head over to our companion channel, Cocoon Cast Clips, where we take this show and cut it up into bite-sized clips. Perfect when you're short on time or just want to share a snack-sized review with your cinema community.
It's that time in the show where we want to hear from you. We'd love to see you standing outside your favorite movie theater with your cinema community. Please send your photo to hello@cocooncast.com. Be sure to tell us who you are and what movie you're going to see so you can show our community your cinema spirit. Now let's talk about some of the cool comments we've been getting.
Okay, first up we have Big Tony Styles. He commented on our review of Hocus Pocus. Here's what he said. We love kicking off the Halloween season watching Hocus Pocus. Wow, he's excited! Exclamation point. 4 Moth rating for me. It stays funny throughout the movie without being over the top. What do you think? That's pretty close to your review.
I know Tony's a huge Disney file. Same thing with most of the rest of his family. So it's pretty consistent. And I agree. Hocus Pocus is a good way to get in the holiday spirit.
Absolutely. And now that I've seen it, I can say the same.
Who can say no to Bette Midler?
That's what I'm saying to you. Next up, we have Melaviv28. Here's what they had to say about Beetlejuice. I enjoyed this review very much. Ooh, nice. Beetlejuice was a staplehood of my childhood cinematic experience. I think I've seen it as much as Rebecca have. Oh my goodness.
I'm not alone.
I thought you were. So to watch this and learn some trivia about the movie was a treat. Also, Teresa and Rebecca, you're both so eloquent and bring so much to each review from sometimes a very different perspective. Ah, they know us. And it's refreshing. Can't wait for more content. Wow, that's pretty encouraging.
I think it's encouraging because sometimes cult classics like Beetlejuice kind of get ignored by the general public. So it's nice to see people share their love and voice their appreciation with the wider cinema community.
Well, and I love the fact that you're not the only one to see it 20 times. Because if you love a movie, you love a movie. And that's all about our cinema community. It may be first time, second time like me, some of the movies we've seen, first time I've seen them. But it may be your 20th time for seeing them. Or like Big Tony was talking about, hey, every year I look forward to seeing this movie. How great is that?
I think it's awesome because one of the reasons I love seeing the cinema community comment on our posts is I want to learn about what you guys like, not just us.
Yes.
This is a community where we learn from each other and we grow in our appreciation.
Finally, our last comment is from Enor084, commented on our review of Killer of the Flower Moons. Here's an excerpt. My grandmother's about 25 in a black and white photo from about 1930. She looked like 55 today. DiCaprio's character had been through World War I. I'm sure that aged the man. That is a great comment. I know we were talking about Leonardo was middle-aged, although he was playing a 25-year-old man from the movie. And I think that's a great comment based on how people looked back in the day, and I remember even in the movie Flowers of the Killer Moon, they were talking about most people only live to be about age 50.
I really like comments like this on our page because it's bringing a perspective that we may not be thinking about in our review. And it also adds conversation too. Like, what is aging for a movie like this? Does it affect the story? And I love that you brought your own personal story to this, Enor. Thank you for sharing this with us.
No, agreed. And after reading that, I thought, like you said, what a great comment to add to the discussion. I hadn't thought about that, I'll be honest. But I laughed also because I had grandmothers that were around that age. My father was born in 1935. And to me, absolutely, my aunts and uncles growing up looked older than they were. The black and white photos, just, going through a war or two. Absolutely. So great point. So thank you for sharing that. And now it's time for some Hollywood news. Rebecca, they're back to the talking board? What? Who's back?
They're actually talking. SAG-AFTRA and the AMTP are finally talking again after a little bit of a break.
A little bit, you mean about a week, right?
Yeah, about 12 days.
Yeah.
Bit of a break. I'm trying to be nice.
They took a vacation from the strike. However, it sounded like they were just miles apart at that point.
Try like continents apart. This was getting ridiculous.
Oof. And where are you reading this from?
Our boys at Deadline, Dominic Patton and Anthony D'Alessandro are bringing us this specific story.
All right, and let's talk about that. Obviously, we need to know what are the key points that you're noticing that they're back to the drawing board, or excuse me, the talking board.
Well, I noticed that SAG-AFTRA is a little bit more willing to compromise. There were some minimum residuals being discussed that if a streaming service has a program that reaches above a certain amount of views, the actors get a bonus. And SAG-AFTRA is talking about lowering their minimums on these percentages about 2%. So That's a big step for them.
Well, and it was what, 11%?
Yes, 11%.
Okay.
In fact, this is such a big deal. They are so desperate. Everybody's desperate to wrap this up. I know there was an open letter of over 100 creatives saying, we will stay on strike as long as it takes till we get a good deal. And they're continuing the talks on Saturday and Sunday. That's a huge sign because normally they've been taking breaks for the weekends.
Well, and I find it interesting. I laugh because if you ask the members of SAG-AFTRA, they're like, we're not desperate. We'll hang out. I read an article from Fran Drescher. She didn't author it, but she was quoted saying, no, we'll hang out as long as possible. It does not matter. And then I had read another article that said if they don't hit here or if they don't come to a compromise in the next few weeks, that's when the studios start to take holiday breaks and their negotiation may be done until after the first of the year.
It's going to be kind of like a congressional break. Oh. You take time away specifically to focus on your families, and the actors are really feeling it. The actors on the ground, even the actors that you may know from these big productions, that's still affecting them. But I can't imagine the AMTP letting this opportunity go of, let's close the books on this one, let's get this done, let's have a happy new year, instead of just dragging this out. And they look even more like the bad guys. And that's saying something from a union that's telling its members, no, you cannot dress in this costume.
Oh, back to don't dress like Barbie. Don't dress like Barbie. In your mind, do you think they'll actually come to an agreement this weekend, or what do you think?
Gosh, I hope so. But realistically, no.
I would question that. Obviously, it sounds like we definitely need to care, though.
My money's on the earliest possible agreement day, Wednesday.
Oh, I'm thinking, next Cocoon Cast broadcast, we will update our cinema community if they have not yet heard. And you get to tell us what else is going on.
Well, this one I'm really excited about. There is going to be an official Highlander reboot from Lionsgate. And it's brought to us by Deadline, so you know it's legit. I saw this article as I was getting my hair prepped in the studio this morning. Chad Stileski is the ultimate Chad. He's going to be directing this. You may know him from directing all 4 John Wick movies.
Oh,
And our lead is going to be Henry Cavill. This is confirmed. This is set in stone casting.
Wow.
We are not going, there may be talks with Henry Cavill's team. No, we have landed Henry Cavill.
And he is most known for?
You may know him as the modern Superman, but some of our other fantasy genre fans may also know him as Geralt of Rivera, the Witcher.
All right. I know him from Superman. The Witcher is...
I also know him from The Tudors.
And big budget, small budget, what are we looking at?
Big budget. We're looking at generous possible estimate of $100 million. This is a huge for this. Highlander.
It's a lot of pressure.
You want to talk cult classic movie? Highlander is a cult classic in the action space. There's been a few sequels. I do not recommend any of them. What I do recommend is the TV show. Follows a little bit of the different characters, but still creates this mythos. But if you want to watch a cult classic action movie tonight, watch Highlander. You're going to be surprised how much fun you're going to have.
I'm over here thinking, we've seen, 4 movies this week? 3 movies, no?
Oh, yeah. And that's not even counting the ones I watch on my days off.
I know. I'm laughing. You're like, go see it. I got my... All right, whoa. Maybe next week. You're a little bit enthusiastic over there.
I was really surprised to hear, not only have you not seen this because of Sean Connery in it, and I know you love Sean Connery.
Talk about the ultimate Scotsman.
The Box has not seen this movie.
How does he sleep at night?
I was just really wildly surprised.
You're like, it's just me. It kind of is in this situation. However, I think I would love to hear if our cinema community is excited as you are, because clearly you are like sounding the alarm. What do you think, cinema community? Is she alone? Is she alone? Come join the Box and I side. Come to the dark side. Come to the dark side.
I'd also like us to comment below. Should we do this as a retro rewind for our weekend show? If so, comment below. If no, still comment below. We want to hear from you.
Absolutely.
Why'd you need to kick Bob out of the house?
You think he's gone? He's not gone. That's the whole point. He's never gone.
Is this some radical new therapy?
You see?
Let's talk about Bob. What about Bob? There's some other happy news.
Are we talking about Bob Odenkirk?
Bob Odenkirk.
You love Bob Odenkirk.
I love Bob Odenkirk.
We better call Saul to get the number on this deal because, man, this one was really cute. I remember you showed me this a few weeks back. Bob and his daughter co-wrote this book, and she even illustrated it. She's got the street cred, too. She got a degree from Parsons School of Design in New York.
Well, let's talk about it. We found this in Hollywood Reporter.
That's correct. Sajia Renkin brought us this story.
It's a great story. I laugh because I sent it to you and, the rest of our team. Nothing. Sent it to you again. I said, we need to talk about this because Bob Odenkirk is funny. He can be serious. In my mind, he's a terrific actor. And not just from Saul. He's a good actor.
He's a great comedic actor.
He is. And he says, his kids are older now, 22, 23, a little bit younger than you are. But like you said, his daughter, Erin, graduated from Parsons School, and she's illustrating his stories and poems. I thought it was hilarious that they're teaming together to do something, another creative outlet for him.
Well, that's what happens when you go on strike and the world shuts down for a little bit. You start to put together these projects that you might not otherwise expect. And you never know. We might see Bob Odenkirk, New York Times bestseller in the children's book department.
Absolutely. Well, and you think about Jamie Lee Curtis and other authors have done such things. My understanding is this started around COVID time. They had started having these conversations.
I think it's really interesting, too. If you read the actual article that we're sourcing this from, Bob has said this has always been on the table, but it's become more of a tangible project for them more recently.
Well, and I laugh because in my mind, Bob gets it. Having adult children, right? You fit the bill in the adult child department. And anything you can do with your adult children, in my mind, that's creative and fun and connecting, I laugh. If Cocoon Cast were a project for Bob and his daughter, Erin, Bob would be doing the same thing. I think parents understand that. And I think adult children or adult kids understand, maybe the parents offer something.
And not every parent does this with their child, but I'm sure for the ones that choose to, this is a very special experience.
Well, and I know I love Bob Odenkirk. The Box loves Bob Odenkirk. Who doesn't love Bob Odenkirk? And his
Emmy voters.
Yeah. Well, and I laugh. His more recent show on AMC was Lucky Hank.
I feel like that has severely floated under the radar. If you're looking for a good little mini binge with some cringe, this is the one to watch.
That is the great show. So that's definitely a plug. Thanks for joining us this week. We're always excited to create experiences to bring our cinema community together.
Next week, we're excited to be reviewing Priscilla. And on our Movies and More weekly show, What Happens Later.
Please remember to like, subscribe, and to share our channel.
If you enjoyed this show, you might want to check out last week where we reviewed Killers of the Flower Moon. And on our Movies and More weekly show, we reviewed the Retro Rewind Beetlejuice.
Remember, cinema community movies are
Better together.
Thanks for watching. See you in the next review.